power of cannabis to improve people's lives. So that could be anything from patches, topicals, lotions, tinctures, etc. And one of the demographics we go after often is the senior demographic. And so we actually, in Orange County, we actually bus seniors to a dispensary once a month for them to buy their cannabis goodies. And one of the things that's really popular is lube. And it's funny because it's like 50 women and one guy, and that guy's having the best time. But one of the things that was also interesting in studying and talking to that community was about feeling sexy. And there's so much about sex that's mental, about how do I look, how do I feel, do they like how my boobs are sagging? These are things that came up. And so we found that a lot of seniors, and this applies no matter the age, was that it was to get yourself mentally right for embarking in sort of like unencumbered sex, in addition to lowering your inhibitions in a way. And then there was also this interesting conversation around self-care, because a lot of sex can be done with yourself. So, taking care of, making a bath for yourself, or massaging yourself in an erotic way with a body oil. There's just so many different delivery methods that you can use to embrace your sexuality. And I think it's interesting that we don't often talk about seniors kind of, knocking boots, but they are really, at that age, they have nothing to lose. So we've heard just like some of the wildest stories I will tell you afterwards. But let's just say the gentleman buys a lot of our products, like cases. But it's interesting. So one of the things we use is like a tincture, and you can add it to coffee or tea. And some of them would take it, and they were like, "When do I need to take it? So when it kicks in, so I can be ready." So the timing it.
This is a THC tincture?
This was a THC and a CBD tincture, so across the range. And they wanted to know how long does it take for the sublingual to kick in, so that their mind can be right, so that they can engage in the activity. Because if you think about aging, especially women, sometimes we are desired for our looks. And so if your looks have changed, what does that do to you mentally? And so it's a way to lower that barrier, to feel sexy, to do the things you want to do that maybe you haven't felt empowered to do. And cannabis is one of the things that can do that. And if you also think about sexual assault or PTSD from that, there's a lot that cannabis can do to really, change the mindset so that you can be your best self in that moment.
It'll have a different experience when it's applied vaginally versus anally versus to your kneecap. But I do want to say that sex is sex is, I think, and has there's a lot of similarities with sex too. We go in and we do bud tender trainings, and I talk to people who are selling our product, and they are saying, they get this old guy who comes in all the time, or this young guy, or a young woman, or intersex person, and they're coming in and they're like, what's good for sex?
What do you mean by sex?
Well, A, what do you mean by sex? And B, that is a personal question, man. What do you like? And if you cannot sort of dig into that conversation on a personal level, cannabis hopefully could help you. But if you're not willing to help yourself get there, cannabis I think will only help you so much. So I think, I don't know, in the same way, we always tell people to use our lubes first solo. You don't know how they're gonna make you feel. And that really, especially with issues of consent, that, consent can change mid-coitus, mid-interaction. And if that THC lube hits, and maybe you are one of the one out of every few hundred people who do feel a psychoactive experience, you're gonna wanna try that alone. And I think that's really important when talking about cannabis and consent. Is this your first time dabbing? You're probably not good, that, I would not consider that consenting. That's a very different thing.
Yeah, I think that's a great talking point, and I think it seems to be that all these different ways of delivering cannabis into the system, when you present it topically into the genitals, there are some known physiological responses, because there are these CD1 receptors, and they're really densely populated in the whole pelvic girdle, in the genitals, in all the smooth muscle tissue in our body, because, as you were saying, it regulates so many things. It's second only to the central nervous system, and we didn't know it existed until 10 years ago. Right? So there's no expert out there yet. like all this information is like in this moment, we're trying to figure it out. We're fielding all this information from our clients. We're trying to understand it, make better products. But when you look at applying a topical to your genitals, a couple things we know happen. It helps with blood flow, right? So it helps with vasodilation. It gets blood moving, which is like what Cialis does. And where the blood moves, sensation moves. So you might notice a heightened sensation. If you're someone who has an issue with too much sensation, you have to really modulate that, right? But what's interesting with cannabis, and this is one of the most beautiful things about this plant, and why I personally believe that like it really wants us to be happy and healthy and have good sex, is that we're fielding information from users that say, I have vulvodynia or vaginismus, or I have painful penetrative intercourse, and I've been offered nothing but opiates, been offered nothing but go to a pain specialist, which
Botox injections in your vagina.
and then we're talking about a large percentage of women, and people aren't very publicly forthcoming about this because there are no pharmacological, there's no path for them to pursue. What cannabis has been doing from what people are telling us is that it's lessening and dampening the pain receptors, but allowing pleasure to pass through. So for pain or even for discomfort, it can come from dryness, from chemotherapy, from aging and hormonal changes through menopause.
Hormonal replacement therapy and gender transitions. Really.
So the physiology is really, there's so much happening there, and so this conversation about consent is super, super important. But there are ways to start working with cannabis that for most people don't translate into the psychoactive mind-altering shift. It's just a physiological response, and trying it alone is super smart. Just self-exploration, self-pleasure, see how you feel with it before you introduce another person, and all of a sudden it's a whole different experience.